And I don't know what is the shadows in an organizational level. Is it all about the leader? Is it about the culture? What is shadows at an organizational level?
So shadows at an organizational level is expressed in culture. And it's, the unwritten rules of how things really work in an organization, as opposed to what's written, in the company on the walls. So there's a famous one, with Enron having integrity on the walls, carved in stone, and yet obviously the senior leaders didn't behave with integrity. And one of my colleagues used to do a fun exercise with executives, used to ask them to imagine that they have a new colleague who's starting in the company and it's their first day in the company. And rather than give them the corporate handbook, to tell them, how does it really work around here? What do they need to do to be successful? So they would say to my colleague, that person needs to always leave their coat on the chair. So it never looks like they've left, the office. They're always there. That person needs to walk around quickly, always looking like they're really busy. Otherwise, people will think they don't have enough to do and they're not needed. That person should never say anything negative to Mrs. Brown because she's related to the CEO. Now, this isn't in anything in a corporate handbook, but that's the real reality of how things work in the culture. Now, how culture impacts shadow is in many ways. One is through, obviously, the leadership and the tone they set. So leaders act not as thermostats taking the temperature, thermometers taking the temperature, but more as thermostats setting the temperature of an organization. The second is, what are the ways that systems and processes that are set up that encourage certain behaviors? So there's a great book called The Dark Pattern that looks at corporate scandals and shows quite clearly that organizations where, let's say, there's hyper competition between teams can encourage shadow and misbehavior. Organizations that, incentives like bonuses that don't encourage collaboration might encourage shadow behavior. Organizations that have unclear goals and that people can bend the rules to accomplish that might also encourage shadow. So there's many ways that behavior can come out in not in a positive way when we don't attend to culture. So I think the argument here is it's not about focusing on the bad leader or the good leader. It's looking at how does the culture also interact with leadership to shape the culture and the behavior that we want and the outcomes that we want. Now, I can't give an example of a truly integrated leader, unfortunately. I'm sure there are many, but they're not really examples that are well known, let's say, because there's something called a power paradox. Those who seek power tend to be the least suited to it, and those who are suited to power are very much the ones that don't seek it.